All right, you want to let them know we're starting? All right, let me know when we're on.
Okay, we just went on.
All right. Okay, I'm going to call to order this meeting of the March 19th, 2020 City of Nashua Planning Board. Just for reference and for the record, as the chair, I have directed the board to all be in attendance by teleconference, so we are going to use that method going through the meeting here. And this is a result of the current issues with the coronavirus. So let's go ahead and Linda from Planning, I'm going to have you go ahead and call the roll.
Okay. Mayor Donches? Mike Pedersen?
Here.
Scott Leclerc?
Here.
Adam Varley?
Here.
Ed Weber?
Here.
Alderman David Tenza?
Present.
Alderman Jan Schmidt? Dan Hudson?
Present.
Maggie Harper? Bob Bollinger?
Here.
Larry Hirsch?
Here.
Okay. We have a quorum.
Okay, so we have a quorum. We're going to move forward. So we have in front of us the minutes from the February 20th, 2020 Planning Board meeting. Has anybody had a chance to review these minutes and want to make a motion as to whether or not they are acceptable as presented?
Mr. Chair, this is Bob Bollinger. So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Bollinger to accept the minutes as presented. Do I have a second?
Larry Hirsch, a second.
All right, so we have a second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll make a roll.
We have to
vote.
do a roll call.
Okay, so go ahead and just go through each person.
Mike Pedersen?
Abstain.
Scott Leclerc?
Yes?
Adam Varley?
Yes.
Ed Weber?
Yes.
Dan Hudson?
Yes.
Bob Bollinger?
Yes.
Larry Hirsch?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 6, 1 abstention.
All right, so we have 6 in favor and 1 abstention. That motion passes. Those minutes are approved. All right, communications?
Okay. You should have had emailed to you 2 communications regarding case number 2. The first one is an email from Joe Mandola dated March 17th regarding some engineering comments. And the second item is a updated waiver request letter from Steve Auger. And that's it.
Okay, thanks. Report of chairman, committee, and liaison. Anybody on the phone have anything? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move forward. Old business conditional special use permits, there are none. Well, hang on a minute. I'm going to go ahead and read the planning board procedure to make sure it gets read in. So the procedure of the meeting and hearings are going to be as follows. After each legal notice of each conditional special use permit, site plan, or subdivision plan is read by myself, the board will determine if the application is complete and ready for us to take jurisdiction. If we do take jurisdiction, the public hearing will begin, at which time the applicant or the representative will be given time to present an overview and a description of their project. They'll speak to whether or not they agree with the recommended staff stipulations and the board will have an opportunity to ask relevant follow-up questions of the applicant or staff. Next, I'll ask for any testimony from the audience. First, I'll ask for anybody wishing to speak in opposition or concern to the plan. If you decide you'd like to come forward, please come forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. This is the time for you to express any concerns you may have or ask any questions you may have of the plan. Next, I'll ask for anybody wishing to speak in favor of the plan. The board will then ask any relevant follow-up questions of the applicant. The applicant will then be given a rebuttal period, at which time they'll respond to any of the concerns raised by the public testimony. If so necessary, I will allow one person from the public to come forward and respond to those items brought forth during the rebuttal period. You'll have to elect one person amongst yourself if there's multiple people out there that want to bring forth anything further. After this has been completed, the public hearing will end and the board will resume a public meeting, at which time we'll deliberate and vote on the application before us. I'd ask that both sides keep their remarks to the subject in hand and not repeat what has already been said. I want to be fair to everyone and make the best possible decision based on the testimony presented and considering all our applicable approval criteria established in the Nashua revised ordinances for conditional special use permits, site plans, and subdivision plans. And thank everybody for their attention. If you do have a cell phone, please go ahead and turn it off or put it on vibrate at this time. All right, so moving forward, old business conditional special use permits, there are none. Old business subdivision plans.
Yes.
I have the HDC communication when he's done.
Okay.
Okay. Why don't you give it to me now, Ed? You just mentioned to him.
Mr. Weber, do you want to go ahead and let us know what it is now?
Yes, I wasn't for sure. HDC meeting February 24th, 2020. 4 Canal Street had a request of Ale House, and it was approved. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Okay, moving forward, old business site plans, there are none. New business conditional special use permits, case number 1, Roman Catholic Bishop Finance Real Estate Office owner, Family Promise of Southern New Hampshire applicant. This is an application and acceptance of a proposed conditional use permit to convert a school to transitional housing and offices. This is located at 6 Harvard Street. Can I have a motion from the board as to whether this application is ready to take jurisdiction?
Ed Weber approved.
So we have a motion to take jurisdiction by Mr. Weber. Do we have a second?
Dave Tenza.
Second, Mike Peterson.
All right, so we have a second by Mike Peterson. Any discussion? Can you just go down the roll,
Yep.
please? Thanks.
Mike Pedersen,
Yes.
Scott Leclaire,
Yes.
Adam Varley,
Yes.
Ed Weber,
Yes.
Alderman Tenza,
Yes.
Dan Hudson,
Yes.
Bob Bollinger,
Yes.
Larry Hirsch.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Okay, that motion passes. So we have somebody from the applicant to present the application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I guess this is a first for all of us.
Yeah, try to lean in to the mic as much as you don't, yeah, just a little bit, it'll be helpful, I think.
For the record, my name is Gerald Pruner. I'm an attorney with office at 20 Trafalgar Square in Nashua, and here representing the applicant this evening regarding this particular conversion of the Infant Jesus School. Because this is kind of different type site plan in the sense that we're not doing any exterior changes, most are interior, I think, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask my chairman of my committee to come up and give a little oversight as to the mission of Family Promises so that the board would have some understanding, and then I'll have our architect tell about what's being changed in the interior of the building. That'll give the board a chance to understand why those changes are being made, if I may.
Sure.
Thank you. Pam, you want to just take a couple minutes?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the members of the board for allowing us to be here this evening.
Yeah,
I
just
will.
need a name and address, yeah.
My name is Pamela Wellman. I'm the Executive Director for Family Promise of Southern New Hampshire, and we're located at 180 Lowell Road in Hudson, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Family Promise is transitional housing for average working families who are temporarily experiencing homelessness. Our families are average working families who are not subject to substance or alcohol misuse or any criminal activity, instead, they are average working poor who, because of job loss or a home loss or a marital issue or health issue, have lost their homes and are struggling to rebuild their lives. They can live with us for up to 12 months, in which time we help them with every aspect of what caused their homelessness and in overcoming all the obstacles. We do that through financial learning and financial planning. Many of our, over 50% of our families that enter our program and graduate to home ownership. We are able to improve their credit scores within 1 year, and they're able to move forward as active citizens, tax-paying citizens. Many of them are highly professional, and we help them to get back to school, to finish educations and improve their professional acumen so they can make as much money as possible and support their families. In the past 2 years, there's been a 23% increase in family homelessness in the state of New Hampshire. 2/3 of that is in Hillsborough and Rockingham counties. Those are the areas that we serve. We serve 44 communities, all of Hillsborough County, and 11 communities from Rockingham. And we've seen, we basically have outgrown our premises on the grounds of presentation of Mary. We have to leave the premises because the sisters are taking the house back for their own purposes. We have served our community there for 16 years, and we need to move forward and expand our services as the homeless population expands in the state. We work very closely with all the other homelessness organizations, but this is the piece of the pie that we share and that we serve. And I'm just looking for you to consider our application this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is
Thank
there any
you.
other parts of your folks that want to come up and present first? We typically go through all that and then do questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now I'd like to call our architect, Craig Jones. Mr. Jones, would you come up and tell him what you're doing?
Thank you for having us. My name is Craig Jones. I'm with Dennis Myers, the architects. We are representing Family Promise on this project. And just to give you an overview, this obviously is an existing school that will be converting to non-transient housing that will house up to, what do we have? There'll be 29 units within the building. The purpose is to use the existing infrastructure within the building. So it consists of 3 different levels. Each level is about 11,800 square feet, so there's a total of just over 35,000 square feet. The first level contains already a cafeteria space that will be utilized essentially as is, and it has some other infrastructure down there that can be converted for laundry and that type of things. The upper 2 levels will consist of living units and also some offices for Family Promise to run their operations from there. So as we move forward with this project, we're looking to only do the work within the building. So this is what we would consider an interior fit up. There won't be any changes to the exterior of the building. I think that's what we have for now.
Okay, I have a couple of questions that I'll go through and then I'll ask some of the board here. So could you just talk a little bit about parking and how that's dealt with? What's the typical arrangement? How many cars do you expect? Stuff like that?
I can speak to that. So we have there's approximately 40 parking spaces on the site that will be utilized at the church. It's kind of shared parking area with the church. We would anticipate a maximum of, the 29 units. If they were full, we'd anticipate there could be as many as one car per person. During the day, there are also some staff that come on to site, 6 to 8 staff members per day. So we wouldn't be filling the space. There's ample parking, not only on site, but all of the street parking around it as well.
Okay, but the intent is the site is likely capable of holding the parking demand?
That's correct.
Okay. And then this may be for the director. The average length of stay, I think you said the maximum, right? But I didn't understand what the average and length of stay might be.
State your name again.
Yeah, just make sure you say your name again for the record.
Hi, this is Pam Wellman. The average length of stay last year in 2019 was 313 days. The average length of stay the year before that in 2018 was 268. They are able to stay with us for up to 12 months while they are able to build their bank accounts, find better paying jobs, and then find housing. We help them through every step of the way, transitioning them into permanent supportive housing when they leave our program.
Okay. And do you have a general idea of like the occupancy that you're expecting?
We have 29 units that are being built,
Yep.
but that translates actually to about 24 families or so, because the units will be able to house 4 people in any one of the units. But some families, we can't predict the size of families naturally. We've had some families with 6 children. We've had a mom and dad with 1 child. So all of the units will remain fluid so that we'll be able to accommodate our families as they apply for our program.
Okay. But the way you're structured, it's 4 people per unit, but it's not, a family could have 2 units.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
All right. I think that's the questions I have. I'll take some questions from the board.
Ed, what?
Go ahead, Ed.
When I visited the site, there was a couple of dumpsters there. I'd like to know if they're going to be enclosed.
Our plan is to fence the dumpsters in. Right before we take occupancy, that was part of our plan, was to fence them in.
Okay. Other questions from the
They're
board?
going to be enclosed.
Go ahead, Ed.
They're going to be enclosed before occupancy.
Correct.
Okay.
'Cause, what's going on? It's really hard to hear. It's kind of breaking up everything on the phone,
I'm sorry.
intermittent.
Yes, it is the plan to enclose before occupancy.
Did you hear that, Ed?
Thank you.
You're
I got
welcome.
that. Thank you.
Other questions by the board? Okay. Hearing none, I'm all set. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, at this time, I will entertain, if there's anybody in the audience wishing to speak in opposition or concern, or have questions of the plan, just come on up, and you can, or the conditional use permit, I should say. Okay. Make sure you state your name and, yeah, try and talk as loud as you can, if you don't mind.
No problem. Sean Doherty, 12 Harvard Street. I do have a lot of concerns about the parking situation, especially in this area. It is very heavily congested with no overnight parking. That will obviously lead to people parking on the streets. Trash collection will be an issue. And I also have an issue with, I abut the school at the moment. Do we have available plans to any changes that will be happening on the exterior? I know you said that this is mostly interior. We have nothing.
Yeah, just say your questions and they'll come up after. So
Okay.
They're writing them down, I'm sure.
Okay.
Just hang on, Jerry. Go ahead.
I'm also concerned with what this is going to do with home values in the area. This is an opportunity for Nashua to gain higher tax revenue if this property was sold to a developer that's a for-profit apartment community. If this is a non-profit apartment community that's non-taxed, it's obviously not going to be taxed and could be detrimental to the home values in the area, which would lead to lower tax revenue for them as well. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition or concern, have a question on the plan, please come forward.
My name is Stephen Mwangi. I am a resident of the neighborhood of that transition section they are talking about. First of all, is to appreciate what good, noble job they are doing, but my concern is about parking. In the same location, I think there is some activity that goes on Mondays, and on that Mondays, being the office that is there faces Crown Street, and sometimes people come park along the street to an extent that they block the driveways. Is that going to be happening, or do they have plans so that at least we will not have that problem again? Thank you.
All right, thanks. Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition or concern or have questions on the plan? Come on forward, state your name and address for the record. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Kyle Taveros, owner of 12 Harvard Street. One of my main concerns are, I understand that these people are average working people. Are they being screened? Are they, what qualifies them to be living in this facility that is being renovated? What steps are you taking? Are these people, I understand that you said they're people of average families, but still, are they drug users? Or do they have alcoholism? Is that why they can't afford a home? I just want to know more of the specs of the type of people coming into the neighborhood.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition or concern or have a question of the plan? Okay, anybody wishing to come and speak in favor? No? All right, so at this point, I'm gonna give the applicant a chance to come up. I've got a few things I wanna make sure you address. One is parking, exterior work, something about activities on Monday, whether they're gonna cause, that's related to parking, and then any policies, procedures regarding, the folks that live there, and I don't know, maybe Jerry, you might be able to speak on value and stuff and taxes. Go ahead, just make sure you
Again, for
state
the
your name
record,
again.
My name is Gerald Pruner,
Yep.
and as far as we are concerned, there are no exterior changes. I would like, if I could, to bring up again our point person that runs the operation, and she could answer those questions that you have better than I could.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And remember, just state your name. Thanks.
Hi, this is Pam Wellman, director of the program. We've been practicing for 16 years, and we have a very intensive intake process. It's a very lengthy application about past, current, and future plans and backgrounds. We practice state, federal, and sex offender criminal background checks and do not tolerate anything that is dangerous to any community, especially the community that exists within our own transitional home. We also do intensive we've never had an issue with having to exit anyone for any substance or alcohol, because we do initial drug screening as well, and alcohol use. So they're not drinking. It's a dry campus. You can't drink. You can't have any drugs on campus. Since I've been there for 6 years, I have had to do room checks twice. The quality of people that we're speaking about are those who might be less fortunate than most of us, who, again, because of an eviction, because of job losses, which has been a tremendous eviction, and job loss has been mainly the reason that causes these families' homelessness. I mean, these are people who are, they're IT people, they're retail professionals, they've got jobs, they've come from all walks of life, but what's happened to them that maybe some of us haven't seen are real life circumstances that in our own worlds could cause the same. The difference with our families is that they don't have support systems that we may have. So therefore, they don't have the family that they can go to. They don't have the relative that they can go to for any length of time. And that's why they come to programs like ours. We are part of a national affiliate. There are 244 family promises across the country. There are 3 in the state of New Hampshire. We are the largest. We're the only residents. But in the state of New Hampshire, we're being asked to open other facilities in Laconia and in Plymouth and other areas of the state because of the integral need of our mission, especially with this COVID virus that's come upon us. These are the families who financially will be affected by this particular job loss. Again, I mean, people are being laid off, and we're the organization that successfully has been serving this population of people for 16 years. So again, I can assure you that our families are people that you'd see at Market Basket behind you, or people that are Dunkin' Donuts in front of you, and you'd never know they're homeless. They're seamless. They don't want anyone to know. All they want to do is rebuild their lives so they can get on with life and be successful again. And that's what our program is based on, and that's how we run it.
Okay. There was a question about some activities that may cause increased park. Do you have any kind of activities like that, or is that something?
No, honestly. I can comment on the parking too, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So with 29 units, that doesn't mean 29 families. Many families have one car per family, so at the most it would be 24 families, 22 or 24 families, again, because we need those extra rooms for fluidity. And then we have 5 paid staff. By the time we'll have 6 paid staff, so our parking requirements are under 30, and we wouldn't need the street. We'd have to, right now we don't park on the street, we park within the lot. And that's what we're mandated to do. So I don't think that our tenancy would cause any parking issues or traffic issues in the community.
Okay. And would it be accurate to say, generally speaking, that the residents don't have multiple cars in most cases?
There might be a mom and dad, and they each have a car. Yeah. Our ratio of full parent or 2-parent families is about 30%. Most of them are single fathers, okay, which is a growing rate of homelessness in our state, or single mothers. So.
Okay. So you think it'd be unlikely that you exceed the parking capacity of the site?
No, I know we wouldn't. No, because that was a huge consideration in us even embarking upon this project. We know what we needed, and it fit the bill. So.
Okay. What about on-site security or anything like that? What's your practices for that?
We have a security system in-house. We've got, right now in 17,000 square feet, we've got 20 security cameras monitored. Our doors are alarmed. There's an overnight curfew from 10:30 at night. Everybody has to be home unless they're working a late shift or something. But generally, from 10:30 in the evening till 6 o'clock in the morning, we are alarmed. Okay. And then we use an electronic key for the front and back doors only. And we will maintain that because it works, and it's secure, and it's safe.
Okay.
And we also have okay, 2 resident staff assistants that live in the house and they do our overnight staffing. So we are staffed 24/7 in case of an emergency or an illness or someone needs an ambulance. So we have in-house staff that live there.
Okay. Good. Questions from the board members for the applicant during this rebuttal? Okay, hearing none. I don't have any further questions. At this point, anybody, I know there's a few folks in the audience that had questions. If you have further questions related to what the rebuttal was, you can talk amongst yourself. I'd say keep distance. And if you want one person to come up and ask a follow-up question that the applicant can address, I'll give you that. If you're all set, you don't need to come up, obviously. Good to go? Okay. Any further, does the applicant have anything else to add at this point? No? Anybody from the board have any questions for the applicant or staff before I close the hearing? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing and move to the meeting. So I'm going to summarize. So we have a conditional use permit to change what was a school to a transitional housing. We've had the presentation from the applicant. I think that the applicant did a good job explaining the processes and procedures. I'm comfortable with the parking based on the understanding of what's going on, the screening and the security, and it appears to me that the applicant has quite a bit of experience in a relatively rigorous process here. So I don't have any further concerns. Anybody from the board want to speak up during this meeting period?
Ed Weber.
This is Mike Peterson. I have a comment.
Go ahead, Mike.
This facility seems to me to be a valuable resource for people looking to get back on their feet and back into society. It's also conveniently located near the bus line and the future commuter rail line. So on that, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Anybody else?
Ed Weber.
Go ahead, Ed.
Sorry, go ahead, Ed. Yeah, I just request one stipulation added to the maker of the motion, stipulating that prior to certification of occupancy, a dumpster will be fenced in per city ordinance. That's all. Even though they said, yeah, we'll do it, I think we need a stipulation there.
All right, thanks, Ed. Anybody else?
This is Adam. I was just going to say that I agree with Mike's comment about the value and importance of this resource, and I would just say that I think several of the butters raised some important points, all of which were I think addressed satisfactorily by the applicant.
Thanks, Adam. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, is anybody willing to make a motion on this new business number 1?
I'll make a motion, Ed Weber.
Okay, Ed, go ahead.
Okay, new business, conditional use permit at 6 Harvard Street, Roman Catholic Bishop Finance Real Estate Office, at the Plan Meet Site, NRO, Section 190, 133F, with one stipulation prior to the certification of occupancy. The dumpster will have a fenced enclosed per Nashua City ordinance.
All right, thanks, Ed. So we have a motion to approve new business number 1 with the stipulation as indicated by Mr. Weber. Do we have a second on that?
Second, Mike Peterson.
So we have a second by Mr. Peterson. Any further discussion? All right, let's make a roll vote.
Mike Pedersen,
Yes.
Scott Leclaire,
Yes.
Adam Varley,
Yes.
Ed Weber,
Yes.
Alderman David Tenza,
Yes.
Dan Hudson,
Yes.
Bob Bollinger,
Yes.
Larry Hirsch.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we're going to move on. There's going to be new business subdivision plans, case number 2. This is John and Colleen Lyons Dupree, owners. Application and acceptance of proposed 2-lot subdivision. This property is located at 7 Fairway Street. And for those on the board, just hang on a minute. I'm going to, well, actually, let's go ahead and take a motion as to whether we can take jurisdiction. Anybody want to make that motion?
So moved by Ed Weber.
All right, so we have a motion to take jurisdiction by Mr. Weber. Do we have a second?
Larry Hirsch, second.
Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? Let's take a roll vote.
Mike Pedersen,
Yes.
Scott Leclaire,
Yes.
Adam Varley,
Adam, you out there?
Adam,
Couldn't hear you, Adam. We can come back to him. Yeah.
Ed Weber,
Here. Yes.
Alderman David Tenza,
Yes.
Dan Hudson,
Yes.
Bob Bollinger,
Yes.
Larry Hirsch,
Yes.
Adam Varley,
All right, well, we lost Adam, but we have
Form.
enough to vote to take jurisdiction, so I'm going to pass that motion. So go ahead.
Adam, are you there?
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we have a unanimous. All right, go ahead, the applicant. Yep, thanks.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Steve Auger. I'm a project manager with Hayner Swanson, and our office is located at 3 Congress Street here in Nashua. Joining me in the audience tonight are the applicants, Mr. John Dupre and Mrs. Colleen Lyons Dupre. Before I begin my presentation, on behalf of the applicants, we would just like to thank you for this opportunity tonight. We realize these circumstances nowadays are like nothing that anyone has ever seen, and we're very appreciative to have the opportunity to be here tonight and not potentially get postponed to who knows when we might be back. So thank you, everyone, for making this effort. We're here before you seeking approval of a 1-into-2 lot subdivision of the parcel at 7 Fairway Street. Quickly, some lot information. It is lot 102, map 1. It is 1.219 acres in size, and it's zoned R9 suburban residence. It has frontage all on Fairway Street with an existing dual access driveway. Utilities, it is serviced by Pennachuck Water, gas, a combination of underground and overhead electric, telephone, and communications, and it is serviced by municipal sewer. The sewer actually runs out of the side of the house and through an easement across the neighboring lot to the line in Taylor Street, as there is no existing sewer in Fairway Street. For abutters, we are abutted by Riviere College to the north and the west. Across the street from us, we are abutted by Nashua Country Club, and directly to the east is a residential home, 171 Taveros Street. We did appear before the Board of Public Works back on February 27th. There's a code with regards to sewer that each individual lot has to have its own sewer connection to a line in the street. Given that there is no sewer in Fairway Street, what we are having to do is tie our proposed line into the existing line that exits 7 Fairway Street, and then that will run into through the easement and into the line on Taylor Street. So we did receive approval from the Board of Public Works. There were some stipulations to that, and if we receive approval tonight, we will incorporate those stipulations into our final plans before submitting them.
That's the sewer easement you're talking about. That's,
Yeah. Our sewer connection.
Yep.
There's in order for what the Board of Public Works granted us permission to tie in, they put some stipulations on it, and so some of them involve that sewer easement. There were some others as well.
Okay.
And we'll put those. If we're approved, we'll put those on the plan, similar to the way we do with the planning board letter, so that as you can very quickly see what all the stipulations were.
got it. Thanks.
With regards to utilities for the new lot, it will be serviced by Pennachuck Water. There's a line that runs in the right-of-way out of Fairway Street. It runs right under our existing driveway connection, so that's where we'll tie in. Instead of gas, we're going to use propane because while there is gas in Fairway Street, Fairway is currently under pavement moratorium, and we didn't want to pursue cutting open the street to access gas, so we're going to go with propane for now. We're also going to ask for a combination of overhead and underground electric, telephone, and communications, and we're actually asking for a waiver of that. I'll explain that a little clearer once I get to the waiver sections.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, our proposed sewer connection will run across to the existing 7 Fairway Street and tie into the sewer there. So as I mentioned, there are a few easements on here. Mr. Chairman, I know you can see the board. I'm not sure if anyone at home, if they're watching on TV, if they can see it as well. But what I did was there's, for those, if you can't see, there's a colored plan on the board. The first easement we're proposing is in the southwest corner, and is to put a utility pole in our front yard. There's currently overhead electric and communications on the other side of Fairway Street. The existing 7 Fairway Street house now, the way that works is there's a utility pole in their front yard. So
Yep.
there's a line that goes across the street, and then those lines go, once it leaves that pole in their yard, it goes underground to the house.
Got it.
So, and we're going to propose a similar setup for the new house, because we, again, as I mentioned, with Fairway Street being under pavement moratorium, it's not like we can, run everything underground from across the street. So we're proposing a line to go overhead to a proposed pole in the yard, and then from there it'll go underground to the new house.
Got it.
There are 2 proposed easements with regards to sewer, and I've highlighted those in yellow and orange on the board. The yellow easement is an exclusive easement for the proposed new lot. Basically, that just entitles whoever lives there the right to use that sewer line, even though it's on another property. The easement I've highlighted in orange is a non-exclusive easement, and what that means, that applies to both the proposed lot and the existing 7 Fairway Street lot. So it gives both of those units the right to use that sewer line before it exits onto the other property in the existing easement.
Yeah, so just to clarify, that the second easement is basically up to the Y, where it splits and starts feeding
Yep.
each house.
Yep. Yes.
And then
Yes. Correct.
The yellow easement up there is specific to the new lot.
Correct, yep.
Got
Yeah,
it.
the yellow is for the proposed lot, the orange easement is for both lots.
Yep, okay.
Stormwater, we analyzed this lot kind of from 2 points, given there's some different elevation changes on it. Behind the proposed house, we're showing a very shallow, gentle detention pond. That's going to capture all the stormwater that comes off the hill behind us, and the majority of stormwater for the proposed house, which will be run through gutters and directed into the pond that way. So for that portion of the site, we're containing everything we're required to. On the front portion of the site, we have a very slight overage, and that increase is due to the widening of the driveway that we're showing. And I'll explain a little more of this during the waiver section. But it's really a very slight overage that, in our professional opinion, we don't feel that hampers the existing downstream drainage system in any way. As Linda mentioned in communications, we did receive some additional engineering comments from Joe Mandola. We received those on Tuesday. I've gone through them. They're fairly benign. If we receive approval tonight, we'll incorporate those into any plan revisions before we turn in final plans and Mylars to Linda. And obviously, we'd have to get Joe Mandola to sign off on that, and he would notify Linda that he's set with any changes that we have to make.
Okay.
With regards to waivers, we are requesting 3 waivers. Mr. Chairman, if you like, I can read the letter in its entirety, or I can just give summaries of each
summarize,
section.
that's okay, this packet has been sent to the board members.
Okay.
So they have the letters.
Okay. I just didn't know if you wanted me to get it on the record, but if you're fine with the summary.
These are
then-
going to be put into the record
They are in the
anyway,
record.
so just summarize
Okay.
for me, yep.
Okay, the first waiver request is from section 190-221, and this waiver relates to all electrical communication lines being underground.
Right.
As I explained before, given that existing power lines are overhead across the street, and with Fairway Street being under pavement moratorium, we need to put a power pole in our front yard, run a line overhead to get to over Fairway Street, and then once we're in our yard, we'll run everything underground to the new house. And that's, as I said, that's similar to the setup that works right now for the 7 Fairway Street house. So the waiver we're asking for is to go overhead across Fairway Street to our front yard.
Right, and you're only going in off of Fairway 10 feet or something?
Oh,
or
yeah,
less? It's
yeah. I
just
mean,
a few feet.
we made that little green triangle. Just there's plenty of room wherever
Right.
wherever in that area putting the pole works for the power company. That's
Yep,
the second waiver request is for section 190-185B1, and this relates to planting shade trees along a public street frontage. I originally included pictures all along our frontage with regards to that. So if the board members have looked at those pictures, with the exception of one spot, the entire frontage has very tall, very mature trees. And in addition to some ledge outcrops out there, we really don't have room to plant any trees. The only spot we could fit one is really in the area where that proposed power pole is going to go. And we're not sure that's the best idea to plant a proposed tree, adjacent to a pole that's going to have a live electric line. So because of the existing conditions, with so many trees already being on the front of the property and the existing proposed power pole, we're asking for a waiver to plant trees.
okay.
The third waiver request, and Linda mentioned this one earlier, this has to do with stormwater. We're requesting section 190-215B1, and this has to do with the stormwater post-development discharge rate not exceeding the pre-development discharge rate for the 10-year storm. So as I mentioned, this involves really only the front of the house in the area where the existing driveway access point to the west is. We have a really slight overage. And the reason for the overage has to do with the proposed driveway. So the reason we widened and straightened the existing driveway was at a request of the fire department, and that's a life safety factor that they commonly ask for.
Okay.
With the proposed house being as far back as it is. The existing driveway that's out there, for the most part, is 10 feet wide. Fire department wanted it, typically they want it 16 feet wide. It just helps their trucks get in, especially in the wintertime as snow builds up and whatnot. The applicants, they're more than glad to do that. They agreed to it. But because of the additional pavement required to widen that driveway, that's what's causing us the overage. The reason we have the overage and really can't do anything with it is because of all the ledge outcrops out front, where we would normally try to create some type of detention depression similar to what we did out back. It's very challenging to do so in that area. So we are requesting that waiver as well. We believe the site's being developed in a responsible manner and in accordance with the Nashua Land Use Code. We respectfully seek your approval, and at this time, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. So just, I guess with regard to the stormwater, is the arrangement of the driveway such that, what's the slope on the driveway? I mean, just cutting to it, is there gonna be a lot of water coming off the driveway into fairway?
No, it's relatively flat. It's about 1.3%. If you look at the existing driveway out there, it's very flat to begin with. So
Yeah.
So we just kind of somewhat graded similar to what it is out there. We're not going to be. It's not like we're not going to be shedding water right through our access point out onto Fairway Street.
Is there an intent to crown that driveway at all, to keep it going off the sides versus onto Fairway?
We're really, because we're not the only part of the driveway we're really touching.
Oh, so it's already there. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at it from the street viewpoint, there's a rock wall.
Yeah.
And then there's the two large kind of rock pillars that really inhibit doing anything.
Yeah.
So other than where we're making our water connection, the only spot that we're cutting into the driveway outside of the rock wall is just for the water pipe. We're not grading there or shaping it in really any form. So it's just where we are grading it is on our property. In the increase we're talking about really is measured in its hundredths of cubic feet. I mean, it's very very. I mean, if we only carried the report to tenths, it would be rounding. We wouldn't have it. But I mean, we typically carry everything to hundredths just to try to be accurate and fair.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense to me. Okay. Questions of the applicant from the board?
This is Dan.
Go ahead, Dan.
I just had a question about the proposed pole. It looks like the pole is proposed to come off of already has a number of transformers on it, and I was just curious if that has been coordinated with the utility company to verify that that's feasible as shown.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
He was talking about the new electric service coming off overhead. The pole that you're kind of showing.
Yep.
It coming off from on the opposite side of Fairway.
Has the location
has
been?
A bunch of transformers on it, and is are the cutouts or anything going to be an issue as the utility company? I guess.
We haven't coordinated that with the utility company yet. We'll get into that during the home building process, and certainly if there's something that needs to be worked out, we'll work with the utility company.
Yeah, I think what could arise is they may have to just set another pole, or you might have to come off a different, at a different location than you're showing.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, we just Wait, I use that pole as the closest pole, is the one we located in our survey.
Okay.
I mean, certainly we'll work with the utility company. They're the experts on telling us how this should be set up.
Yeah, okay. Dan, does that take care of your question?
Yeah, I think it would be feasible to come off the next pole up the street. It just may require some clearing of the trees along the frontage. That's the only concern, but I think it may be feasible to come off a different pole if needed.
Okay, as long as you know that could be the case, yeah.
Is he talking closer in front of the 7 Fairway Street house, or closer in front of the Muldoon Center?
Dan, you're talking the pole up the street. Go ahead.
There's a pole between the driveways on Fairway. I think it would have to come off that pole.
But okay, I'm sure if that we'd be fine with that. I was just trying to clarify if there was a different pole that would cause us to cross the Muldoon property, then we would need an easement from them in order to do that. But if it's a different pole in front of our frontage, I mean, I don't see why that wouldn't work.
Yeah. Could that easement even be moved to the other side of the driveway if that's an issue? The east side?
I mean,
Could be, right?
yeah, it certainly depends on what the utility
Right.
company
But
wants
that
us
would
to
be
do.
feasible.
Yep.
You could have an easement on the east side of the driveway and drop down there.
I mean, we just picked that spot just
Yeah,
because it's
makes the most
it's
sense,
clear
yeah,
of it's adjacent to the driveway and it's clear of the 7 Fairway Street house.
Okay, all right. Other questions by the board?
Ed Weber.
Go ahead, Ed.
Okay, they have a number of engineered, civil engineer on the site, and usually we have some affidavit that's in the stipulations for the engineering and planning board, so that their as-built would be signed off.
Are you asking if they'd want, it would be a construction control affidavit, essentially, Steve, that the,
Yeah.
that you would do a certification affidavit that the on-site, particularly the drainage, has been built to plan. Is that a problem?
I mean, it's not a problem for me. I mean,
Right.
can I just speak to my clients for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead, yep.
Did you ask me a question?
No, Ed, he's conferring with the applicant about that.
Okay.
Just to clarify, Ed, is your concern the new stormwater basin, essentially? That's really the only,
Usually when we have a residential, we've addressed this problem before, and we usually have the wood in the stipulations whenever there's whenever we have a subdivision, residential subdivision plan, that the engineered stuff like the retention area and anything that isn't permitted, a permit type of scene, so that this is completed as engineered by their civil engineer. It's put in correctly, both things. That's all.
yeah, I
Just
think,
needs to have, understand the affidavit.
yeah, I know what you're saying, Ed. There's only one thing on this plan that I see that would be not looked at by necessarily the building inspector, and it'd be the stormwater collection basin, right? Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but
But you have the stormwater and you have the retention area that's engineered.
that's what we're talking about, same thing, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if we're talking about just the detention
Stormwater
basin,
and then your
I mean,
drainage.
that's fine.
There's some drainage things that go underground.
Okay,
I mean, I just wouldn't want to. I mean, like for example, we showed where the water line and the underground
Right.
utility is going to go into the house. I mean, that's if the builder determines it's better to go 5 feet this way or 5 feet that way. I just don't want to get into a position where I'm saying where we showed those lines in the plan has to go right there, because
Yeah, normally it's not the utility connections, it's the engineered stormwater retention equipment design, which in this case is really the basin, right?
that's fine. I mean, certainly we can go out and monitor that
Okay.
at the time that the general contractor digs it.
Okay. All right, Ed, you heard that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chair, this is Bob Bollinger.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, I just had a question, and this may have been addressed and I didn't see it. Is my presumption correct? It looks like there's a garage on site that would possibly be raised as part of this application, and I guess the only reason I'm really asking that is because it's not clear to me if the new lot will have exclusive driveway access via the existing paved driveway on the westerly side of Fairway, or if they're going to continue that shared sort of loop around driveway. And I guess where I'm going with this is does there need to be any prescriptive easement which I guess specifically dictates driveway access for the new parcel?
Okay, thanks, Mr. Auger. Yeah.
And I should have mentioned this in my presentation, my apology. To first, that proposed, that existing garage out there, yes, that is going to be raised. We have that noted on sheet 1 of the plan. And there's, as part of the new house, there's going to be a 3-car garage there substituting for the old garage that will be demoed. With regards to the dual driveway and the new extended driveway off of it, we do have, I believe it's note number 23 on the plan, stating that upon transfer of land, there will be a proposed cross-access easement covering the driveway for both parcels. The problem with all the easements is just in New Hampshire, you can't grant yourself an easement. So with regards to the driveway easement and both sewer easements shown on the plan, we need to, have the plan approved and recorded first, and then the Dupreys have to transfer one of the lots, and so we get different ownerships, and then at that time, we can record those easement documents, and that's what we intend to do. We've noted so on the plan.
Okay. Does that make sense to you, Bob? Mr. Bollinger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that, the
All right.
explanation. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions from the board for the applicant or staff? Just for the board members, understand there are no more public here other than the applicant, so we won't go through that exercise. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions of the applicant or staff before I close the hearing?
Scott, this is Adam.
Go ahead.
I just had a question. I couldn't hear what the resolution was on the construction affidavit. Was it agreed that we don't need one, or that would be a stipulation?
The applicant agreed that they would be okay with a construction control affidavit for the stormwater basin, which is really the only design feature on the plan with regard to stormwater.
Okay.
So if, that would be, if we want to do that, they have indicated that they would accommodate.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anything further before I close the hearing? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing. Thank you. So I'm going to move into the meeting. So we have this 1 into 2 lot subdivision. You know, looks pretty good to me. I don't see any issues. I'm okay with the waivers. I would indicate to the board, whoever's going to make a motion, I think the staff report just has the 2 waivers.
Right.
But there's a third being asked, and if you take your packet that you got emailed to you, it would be number 3 with regard to 190-215B1, that waiver of the stormwater post-development discharge rate. As the applicant had indicated, that looks like that's gone up by, you know, a very small fraction. So we would need to add that waiver to the stipulations. And then Mr. Weber had talked about a potential for a stipulation regarding a construction affidavit on the as-built condition of the stormwater basin. And we would also want to make sure we add a stipulation with regard to the Tuesday, March 17th city engineer comments, that they be addressed. When is that typically prior to recording the plan, or
Prior to the chair signing the plan.
prior to chair signing? So, okay. Anybody else have any discussion or they want to make during the meeting? Yeah,
This is Dan.
go ahead, Dan.
I would just reiterate that the drainage waiver request, and it's a very minor thing, characterized it correctly. We just wanted to make the waiver officially, get that approved. But we have no issues with the drainage as proposed.
Okay, great. Anybody else with discussion item during the meeting here? All right, anybody willing to make a motion?
This is Adam.
Go ahead, Adam.
I would make a motion to approve new business case number 2, finding that it does meet the requirements outlined in subdivision NRO section 190-138G. Total of 7 stipulations. The first 3 all being waiver requests. 1 being a request for a waiver from 190-221. That will read is granted, will not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulation. Waiver request 2 being a waiver of section 190-185B1. And that waiver request will read is granted, will not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulation. There would be a third waiver request added, and that is a waiver request from section 190-215B1, and that waiver request would also read is granted, will not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulation. The next 3 stipulations would be renumbered and read as written in the staff report, and then there would be a 7th stipulation added to indicate that the applicant would provide a certificate, a construction affidavit with respect to the stormwater improvements being made on the plan.
Okay.
Any of Joe's
Would you
comments?
want to address the letter of Tuesday, March 17th, the comments from the city engineer as well?
I'm sorry, Scott, I couldn't hear you.
Would you want to add a stipulation regarding addressing the comments from Joe Mandola, city engineer, representative from Tuesday, March 17th, prior to my signing
Sure.
the plan? Okay.
So I'll just, for the sake of efficiency, I'll continue my motion. I'll add it, an 8th stipulation, and that would be prior to the chair signing the plan. All items in a letter from Joe Mandola dated March 17th, 2020 would be addressed to the satisfaction of the engineering department.
Okay, thanks. So we have a motion by Mr. Varley to approve new business subdivision plan, case number 2, with the 3 waiver requests as indicated by Mr. Varley. All is granted, will not be contrary, and the remaining stipulations as stated by Mr. Varley. Do we have a second on that?
Second, Mr. Bollinger.
So we have a second by Mr. Bollinger. Any further discussion? All right, let's make a roll vote.
Mike Pedersen,
Yes.
Scott Leclaire,
Yes?
Adam Varley,
Yes.
Ed Weber,
Yes.
Alderman David Tenza,
Yes.
Dan Hudson,
Yes.
Bob Bollinger,
Yes.
Larry Hirsch.
Yes.
Okay, so hearing a unanimous decision, that motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to move on to other business case number 1. I'm going to go ahead and do this one. It's just a tentative agenda to determine the proposals of regional impact. Has anybody had a chance to look at the tentative agenda or the technical review meeting items and want to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Bob. I'd like to make a motion that there's no projects of significant regional impact.
All right, so we have a motion, Mr. Bollinger. There are no proposals of regional impact. Do we have a second on that?
Second by Weber.
Second by Mr. Weber. Any further discussion? All, roll vote that, please.
Mike Pedersen,
Yes.
Scott Leclaire,
Yes.
Adam Varley,
Yes.
Ed Weber,
Yes.
Alderman David Tenza,
Yes.
Dan Hudson,
Yes.
Bob Bollinger,
Yes.
Larry Hirsch.
Yes.
All right, so that's unanimous, and that motion passes as indicated with no proposals of regional impact. So at this point, we have 2 other items on the agenda. Those 2 items, I am recommending that they be pushed to the next meeting, which at this point is scheduled for April 23rd.
April 23rd at 7:30.
Okay. So would someone like to make a motion to table these 2 items, numbers 2 and 3, other business, and to the 23rd?
Mr. Chair, this is Dave Tenz. I'd make a motion to table these to the April meeting of the Planning Board.
All right, so we have a motion by Alderman Tenza for other business, case number 2 and 3, to table to the next meeting of the 23rd of April. Do we have a second on that?
Second by Adam.
Second, Bob.
Okay, second by Mr. Varley. Any further discussion? Roll vote that, please.
Mike Pedersen,
Yes.
Scott Leclaire,
Yes?
Adam Varley,
Yes.
Ed Weber,
Yes.
Alderman Tenza,
Yes.
Dan Hudson,
Yes.
Bob Bollinger,
Yes.
Larry Hirsch.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, that motion passes. That concludes what we have on our agenda. I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make, Weber, like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Weber to adjourn. All the, roll vote that, I guess?
No, we don't need a second.
Oh, we don't need but just roll vote the adjournment, I guess?
Okay. Mike Pedersen,
Yes.
Scott Leclaire,
Yes?
Adam Varley,
Yes.
Ed Weber,
Yes.
Alderman Tenza,
Yes.
Dan Hudson,
Yes.
Bob Bollinger.
Yes.
Larry Hirsch.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that motion passes. We're adjourned at 8:14 PM.